it's Amy and welcome to my channel, a place where I combine both my love for running and for music. I don't know about you, but I love starting a new running training build, especially a marathon one, which is mostly what I do now. It's just so exciting getting your training plan and seeing all the cool runs and workouts you're going to do, and it just makes me excited just to work hard again, especially if you've taken a break between training builds, as you should, but just, I don't know, it just makes me super excited to get back at it. It's just a fresh start full of not only possibilities, but new goals as well. I wanted to do a video on tips for how to get the most out of your training build and how to start your training cycle on the right foot. Forgive the pun. As always, if you like this video, tap that thumbs up button, and if you haven't already, click the subscribe button and the bell icon so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Training plan is the perfect time to test and try out new things and build good habits before you get super busy with your training or just life or both. First off, if you haven't already, it's a really good idea to pick a specific goal for your training build. Whether it's a personal best in a specific distance or a race or trying a new distance, for example, or just being consistent in running, you need to have a goal to kind of give yourself a focus for this training build. I know myself, if I just kind of go out for a run and don't have any plan other than if it's just an easy run, that's okay. But if I have no direction, I kind of just flounder a bit. So I like to have goals for myself. This will then affect what training plan you choose, whether it's a marathon distance, half marathon, 10K, whatever you want. I'm not going to go into detail of how to choose the right training plan for yourself, but I probably will do another video on that. So feel free to check back for that later. Going along with your goals that you have for this training build, I like to actually physically write them down, and I have a spot in my training journal for that where I put all them down, whether they're crazy, they're just for yourself. However, if you know of friends who are going for similar goals as yourself, it might be a good idea to kind of share them with each other and kind of give yourself that kind of motivation and support as well as the accountability. But don't feel pressure to share your goal with anybody else. Your goal is for yourself. No one else can do it for you. Maybe your coach can have some influence if he thinks that it may not be the right goal for you or maybe for a later on goal, but it's a personal thing, and if you don't believe in your goal, then you might have a hard time getting to your goal. So you can totally share it or you don't have to. In your training plan, if your goal is to go for a specific race, it might be a good idea to plan some B races before your A race or your main race. This way it gives you the opportunity to test out your fitness as well as the pace that you might be trying for in your A or main race. They're like practice races, still important to do and still do your best in, but maybe just not the main race you're going for that build. Again, I could go into more details about like how to choose your B race and what timing to do them in, but that's a whole different video again. Probably we'll do that later on. At the beginning of your plan, it's also a good idea to choose how you're going to track your training plan. Whether it's on your phone, on a calendar you print out, in a specific training journal, or on an app on your phone. Or a combination of all of them. I personally use my training journal to write in how I'm feeling and just the exact workout and the splits I had, but also this app on my phone called Final Surge, which my coach inputs all our workouts into. And the Strava app, which I mostly use just for the social aspect of running. One thing I love about having the app is that it calculates my weekly kilometers for me so I don't have to do it. Otherwise, it's just nice to have this and you can kind of look back years later and see how certain runs went or before a race. Anyways, I just like having kind of the physical copy of my training plan, but also it on my app and I can just kind of see each workout. There's also other apps like Nike Training and Runkeeper, and I'm sure there's so many others, but I personally just use Final Surge, Strava, and my training journal. I'm curious what you guys use. Do you use a calendar, training journal, app, or combination? Please let me know. Another thing to keep in mind when you're planning your running build or just starting your training plan is to look ahead in your life to see what's going on during your training build. This way you can kind of adjust your plans or goals, especially if you know you're going to be super busy at a certain time or if you're going to be away, so you don't feel too bad about missing runs, or maybe this is just not the time to do a marathon, but maybe a shorter distance like a half or a 10K when you don't need so much of a build leading up to the race. Again, you don't want to get kind of halfway through a plan and then realize you just don't have the time to do it. I know myself, I find it kind of difficult as the training plan gets to the peak where my runs are super long, my workouts are longer. It's just hard to fit everything in. So in preparation of this busy time, I like to prepare and freeze meals. So this way when we both get super busy with work and as we both run, it's just nice to have a meal already prepared. I'm super thankful that my husband loves to cook and is really good at it. So if I'm out for a run, he cooks sometimes, and then if he's out for a run, I cook, etc. So it's just really nice that we both can kind of take turns and support each other in running, or if we're just busy with work and life. So I'm really fortunate to have that. The beginning of a training plan is also a good chance to pick a mantra or a quote for your training build. Whether it's a sentence or one word that kind of epitomizes what you want to do for that goal. For example, for my last build, it was, "Why not me?" and "strong." For some reason, that just gave me the boost that I needed, especially during really hard workouts and the race itself. And if you pick one at the beginning of your training plan, you have the whole session to kind of get used to and make it second nature and make it really special. There's so many ways to choose your mantra, and there's no right or wrong way, but just find that something that works for you, or just a certain word that you really connect with, or something that you're striving for. I think for my current training build that I just started, I'm settling on resilient and powerful. For some reason, those two words are just really sticking with me in this build, and really just think that they will help me focus and just keep driving towards my goal. Maybe I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but it's a good idea to start your new training build rested and refreshed. I know myself, I was feeling really exhausted mentally and physically at the end of my training build, and I just wanted a break. I needed that kind of just downtime. So now I have that, and so now I'm excited again about running and just ready to get back into big workouts and just, refreshed. It's just not realistic for you to work at a super high intensity all year long. You will either get burnt out or injured, or both. It's just healthy for your body to go through these ebbs and flows, whether it's high mileage, low mileage, and just high intensity and time for recovery. It just helps you be a more well-rounded and healthier athlete when you take these times for recovery and just downtime. You should definitely take advantage of having lower mileage or kilometers at the beginning of your training plan. When you're not out running as much, it gives you the time to build a strong foundation of doing strength and mobility. As well, it gives you the time to develop a pre-run activation series and your post-run kind of stretching routine. Much better. I'm trying to be better about drinking water throughout the day and just always having a glass of water with me, so bear with me, I'm quite thirsty. As I was saying, by building this foundation now, when you get to higher mileage and you're getting super busy with your training or just life, you have this kind of habits already built into your week by doing strength and mobility, etc., and you'll just be so much better off for it. Strength training is just so important, as I've said many times, and I know myself, I think I was lacking in that last time, so I'm really just making sure I do more of it now. And then of course you have to take a little bit off in your peak marathon training, but just making it a habit now. I also realized the importance of mobility, especially in regards to my IT band issue, and I just really don't want that to happen again. So I'm just, every night before bed, I have this kind of a routine of doing my R8 roller and my foam rolling and just my stretches, and it just helps me kind of get ready for bed, but also just checking in, making sure there's no sore areas that maybe I should get a massage or checked out. It's just that time to kind of just, again, check in with my body. The beginning of a training plan is also the perfect time to think about shoes. Wherever you keep track of the kilometers on your shoes, and I really hope you do it because it's super important to keep track of that, because shoes do not last forever and are not meant to last forever either. And this will also help prevent injuries if you're kind of rotating through your shoes and retiring shoes when they get to a specific distance. Every shoe is different, and I talked about this before, but more cushioned shoes will have a little longer life than maybe shoes that have less cushioning in them. So you want to look at your long run shoe and to see if maybe you need to get another pair, just to make sure that you don't get to the end of your kind of build and realize, oh no, my shoes are dead and I don't have another pair, and you don't want to get injured this close to a race. As well, it gives you the opportunity to try new shoes, especially if you were eyeing that new kind of speed shoe or long run shoe and you always wanted to try it, but you should never try anything too close to a race. Now you can try it. As you know, I strongly believe in rotating the shoes that you run in to help prevent injuries. Also, if you find a shoe in a specific model that you really love, it might be a good idea to get another pair in it. You never know if they're gonna change things slightly in the next kind of reiteration of that shoe, and you might not like it anymore. I know friends who have bought like 2 or 3 pairs of the same shoe because they love that shoe so much and they just didn't want to risk not liking the next model. Starting a new training plan also gives you the time to test out foods and just nutrition in general. It's the perfect time to try out new pre-run foods, especially before a long run. I always have the same thing before my long run, and it just kind of gets me into this routine. And if you don't have that, maybe you can kind of find what works best for you. I used to have bagels, but now I have oatmeal before my long run, and it only took me just, trying different things out before I could really kind of settle on the oatmeal. So this is a good time because you don't want anything new on race day. So you have 18 weeks or whatever, how many weeks before your race to try out these new foods. It's also important to test out your fueling during your long runs or just your workouts, different gels, different kind of shoes. There's so many different options. So just finding out what works for your body and doesn't give you any GI issues. It's just, again, the perfect time. And lastly, after your workouts or your long runs, kind of figuring out the timing of when you need to eat certain foods. For me, I find it really hard to eat something solid right after a long run or really hard workouts. So for me, I like smoothies or protein shakes. But I've also been recently experimenting with having an egg and toast. Just, again, very easy on the stomach, but just seeing how my body reacts to it after a workout or a hard run, as it's really important to fuel and kind of replenish your glycogen stores. What do you currently eat before, during, or after your long run or workout? Let me know in a comment. For myself, I'm testing out doing higher mileage this training build just to see how my body reacts to it. Especially for me, as there's no marathon or big race planned for me until the fall, this gives me the time to kind of, test out higher mileage and just different things to my training plan and just see how my body reacts to it. I think it's going to be awesome, though probably a little tiring, but I'm very excited just to see, again, what happens with my body and if I get faster from it, which I hope so. Mental training is also an important aspect of your training build. I know a runner who reads "How bad do you want it?" every build just to remind how important and how much the brain has an effect on how you feel during the run, workout, or race. I personally am learning myself just how much positive thinking has an impact on my running and just life in general. I really want to focus on this aspect in this build just to really make myself, again, resilient, one of my mantra words, but just to kind of strengthening and hopefully that I can get to the end of a race and not crumble like I kind of did in my virtual race. It's also a good idea to be aware of what season you're training in and when or what time your goal race is going to be in. If you're doing a spring marathon, for example, it's really important to know that the weather can just flip in an instant. I did the Ottawa Marathon in 2019 and it just was suddenly hot on that day and my body was not used to the heat. It really affected me during the race and it was just awful, and I think maybe I could have prepared myself a little better for that if I just kind of was aware that that was a possibility of getting warm that day. So I'm sharing this with you so it hopefully prevents this from happening to you. As well, in the fall, it gets a little colder. It depends again what month you're running in. If it's in October or November, things get colder, so you just have to plan appropriately. So in the spring, if you know it's gonna be warm, maybe some heat training, just get used to wearing some extra layers just to kind of get used to running when you're warm. As well, maybe in the winter, I don't know if you really want to train being cold, but just be aware that on race day, it could be colder than what you trained in. I just want to be prepared for every aspect of a race and training build, especially as the weather can have such an impact on your race. And lastly, you can plan a vacation or a treat for after your build. Anything for you to kind of look forwards to and just enjoy after you put all this hard work, and then you can, I don't know if it's a new shoe, a vacation or a staycation, anything just to, drive you to the end, and just, especially when things get tiring and you're exhausted, you can just kind of look towards that special thing you planned. If you're allowed to travel, it might be fun just to go away with no running, or just, a little running maybe, but just not having to worry about fitting in like a 36-kilometer long run. I hope these tips were useful and it will help you start your training build on the right foot and just help you kind of get all you can out of your new running build. It's such an exciting time, but also the perfect opportunity to try new things out, whether it's shoes, nutrition, or higher mileage. I love running, and I just have so many goals and things I want to accomplish, and I just love starting a new training build. How about you? What's your favorite thing about starting a new training build, and what are some things you're looking forward to in your current or if your upcoming training build? I'd love to know. Happy new training build, and I'll see you next time.